through and we've added some things to the agenda. Here's Bill. It's coming. Okay. Go. We added something from Bill onto the agenda. So thank you guys very much. It's always such a pleasure to have this many arts people joining us at the Governor's Conference on Tourism at WIDCOT. It was nice to hear Secretary Sayers mention how important the arts were to talk about the funding yesterday. And then again today, to at least have the arts mentioned as part of all of the departments of tourism and the role that we play as well. So thank you guys for making the time to come down to La Crosse or come over to La Crosse, and thank you. Who do we have on the Zoom?
Denora and John.
All right, hi Denora and hi John.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, everybody.
So we will go around the room. Why don't you start with them and then we'll do the intros and then we'll kick off. Do you want to ask John or?
Yeah, absolutely. John, do you want to go?
John Potter, Hudson.
Dinora
Dinora?
Marquez, Milwaukee.
Vivian, and then we'll go back.
Vivian Timchenko, Wisconsin Arts Board.
Caitlin Burrow, staff.
Tyler Marchand, Stevens Point.
Lysandra Vernon, Milwaukee.
John Johnson, Madison. Matt Wall, Madison.
Chela Garcia, Milwaukee.
Jennifer Schwarzkopf, Fitchburg. Karen Ann Hoffman, Stevens Point, Wisconsin.
Lynn Ritchie, Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin. Jane Herring, Kenosha.
Brian Kelsey, Fish Creek.
George Seagrass, Art Sports Staff.
Karen Gishko, Arts Board staff. Susan Lip, Madison/Merrimack.
Wonderful. And then Ann and Jonathan, do you want to just do it quick?
In Kansas Creek, Wisconsin.
Jonathan Liv, Queens Concert.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. We are recording this as well, and then we will post it on YouTube. And for the next meeting, we will have all of these technical difficulties figured out. And so we can just broadcast straight on to YouTube. So you have all received your meeting materials. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
You wanna put that,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'm going to amend the agenda and we're adding in a short brief report from the accessibility. So I will put that down under the executive section.
Real quick, is there a Wi-Fi password?
Yes, it's boundless, capital B.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, it's the same one for the conference. All right, so with that amended agenda, does someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion with the amendment to the agenda.
So Richie?
Hoffman.
All right, so Hoffman second, we have motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you so much, Jane, for your incredible minutes from our December 6th meeting. That's always the one that you have to try to be the most detailed as possible because we're approving the most recommended dollar amounts for grants through the creation of presentation, which is the largest of what it is we do here. So thank you very much. So you've all seen the minutes from the December 6th meeting. Is there someone who will make a motion to approve those?
Schwarzkopf, so moves.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Oh, thank you, Susan. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, we'll move our way down to the budget committee update and John.
Thank you, Brian. I would just say that all is tracking well to date through 2/3 of the year. There are some DOA allocations that are pending, I believe, but very good relationship with the DOA. And then the crystal ball remains murky. And I will ask George to provide any details that he thinks are pertinent.
Thank you, John. Just as a quick tour through the budget, on the match page. So if you're looking at your numbered pages, let's see what number 9, as they would say, number 9, number 9. That's the page that shows the match. And what's important about that page is you'll see under the general purpose revenue
Susan.
that the paid plan supplement estimated is $19,400. As we've talked about before in these meetings, the state is able or does in fact supplement the 3 state-supported positions with dollars to match any increases necessary. The federal positions are ours to absorb through the NEA money that we get. So any increases there come through that. So that's the important thing to point out on this page. Right now, if everything holds, and we'll go back to that at the end of this, if everything holds, we should be overmatched without even the increase that the governor has proposed, which is fantastic for the current fiscal year we're in. Skipping past the summary snapshot, which would have been 10 and going to 11. That's the AIDS detail page. It's important to note as you look at creation and presentation, that that's where the 50th anniversary funds come from. So those dollars have recently been approved by you, and we'll go through that again a little bit in this meeting. Also, you'll note that the Arts Challenge Initiative, the regranting program, and the Woodland Indian Arts Program are all coming up at this meeting for approval. So those dollars will appear. And as John said, we're tracking right on point with all of that. If you go to page 12 and you look at the ops detail, the things to point out there are these. First, you'll see that the DOA overhead assessments, DOA has kindly moved them into the state side. It's nice to have the state pay for its own assessments. I appreciate that greatly, and as opposed to having the feds pay. The second thing to point out is that the travel, you'll see that the travel budgeted versus the actual travel is very close, especially for this time of year when we have this meeting and the May meeting coming up for you guys. And that's because DOA tried to tinker with the ops budget and bring the ops budget down. But we will have money available to us because we're not gonna spend everything in creation and presentation. And so it will be fine, and they assure us of that.
And just to clarify, that's not something they normally do, and they'll check in with you before they do it next time, I'm
Indeed.
assuming. Yes.
I also wanted to point out that this year, for whatever the reason, under the subscriptions, dues and memberships, both last year's and this year's NASA dues appear there, which is why the number is so large. So again, when DOA is working to reconcile things at the end of the fiscal year, sometimes they get themselves twisted. And so we're working with them to figure out how to make that change as well. So that's that for the ops detail, and I'll ask you at the end of this part of the report for any questions. The final page, which is page 13, is the Poetry Out Loud page. And if you've been following the arts news, you'll know that on March 1st, the state championship was held. And wouldn't you know, we now have a 3-time winner. This young woman has won the last 3 Poetry Out Loud. Riley Singman, and so she'll go out to DC again come this spring and compete on the national level. So clearly she is very talented in what she does. Also, that means that competition is over. They can, in fact, it's the hill. Now that the competition is over, the final expenses will come in. And the one other expense that will be important, we because the NEA increased Poetry Out Loud from 20,000 to 25,000. There will be money this year for our Poetry Out Loud coordinator to go to DC to participate. Last year, she couldn't go, both because there wasn't money and because she was otherwise scheduled. But this year, the money is there. So that's all the tour through the budget for the year that we're in. And before I switch to the budget that we're going to, any questions about this?
Can you tell us where the recipient lives? What city or town?
She is in the Racine Kenosha area. She goes to the Prairie School.
Yeah.
So she goes to the Prairie School.
And then is she graduating out yet or?
She is a senior this year.
No,
She's a junior this year,
So she entered.
so she has one more year.
You're gonna win it.
Yeah,
There may or may not be
Yeah, right.
revisiting of the guidelines for,
I-
let someone else play for.
That's right. There are no guidelines currently for 3 feet or 4 feet, so. So yeah, so that's what it is. So, and, in the press release, which is on the website, you can also note who the teacher is.
Okay.
The teacher is, noted out there. Other question? You know, given the world that we're swirling in right now, the fact that our current budget is healthy is a good thing. Switching gears to the governor's proposal. Obviously, the governor has proposed 4 things in the arts. One is the increase to our per capita spend, so we go from 18 cents to 68 cents. Is adding 50 cents, so we're $2.9 million in the budget. Secondly, he's actually matched the NEA, so if nothing else happened, we'd still be matching the NEA going forward, which is important. And we'll come back to the NEA in a minute. The third thing is the Rural Creative Initiative that Ann has been working on with Create Wisconsin. And the final thing is, as the governor explained to the crowd today, the Office of Film and Creative Industries and the film incentives, so the return of the film incentive. All of these things are proposals at this time. We are waiting for the bill to go to finance. And when it goes to joint finance, we'll see what, if anything, they keep or strip out of the governor's budget related to what I just said to you. The good news is because the governor proposed it, we can still talk about it. So we can still talk about the per capita increase, et cetera. So if you're talking with a legislator, and even if joint finance took it out, you can say to your legislator or any other legislator who asked, we thought the governor's proposal was great. We like the notion of a per capita increase. We feel that the current per capita spend is an insult to artists and arts organizations across our state. So we can still have that conversation going forward. Are there any questions about what the governor proposed or the timing of what happens next? Because what happens next is joint finance picks up the bill probably within the next week or so. And then they'll be having meetings, and Ann may know exactly where they're having their meetings across the state. They haven't said.
For the public hearings.
Yeah,
I assume in the next week or so, they'll release their dates.
right. So they'll have public meetings around the state. And if they're in your neighborhood, it wouldn't hurt that you go and you tell them why this is very important. And it, obviously, Great Wisconsin will turn out the field to do the same.
And even if they're not in your neighborhood and you can swing it, I went up to Rhinelander and spent tonight and testified and left the next week as soon as I was done.
Right. So that comes, and then joint finance brings each of the agencies in, generally the large agencies, and tourism doesn't even rank as a large agency. But they bring in the larger agencies to have conversations, grill them about their proposals. Then they go into executive session. And that's when none of us can talk anymore. They're the only ones that can talk, and they make the budget that they want it to be. And then it gets handed off to both houses in the Assembly and the Senate. They deal with it. With any luck, this all wraps up before June 30th, because the governor technically signs on July 1st. Obviously, the governor gets about 2 weeks when they finally give it to him to go through it and say what his line item vetoes will be. So best case scenario, they're done by the end of June. We've seen it go all the way to October or November. So we hope it's not that. We hope that the closer margins in both houses will make for a better conversation. But we don't know. So we'll keep you up to date as we flow through this.
Can I mention something? Of course, it's a real thing that, and I mentioned this last night in our meeting with Great Wisconsin's executive session, why it was so important. The 68 cents for me, and we talked about the NEA match, but we don't know what's going on at the federal level. So my existential nightmare thought is, what if our state only matched the NEA and the NEA is cut dramatically? What does that look like for us? And so this is why it's really important to get out there and really talk about this right now, because 2011 was painful, and I'm hoping we never have to see that again in our lifetime at the Arts Board. But it is something that we need to keep our ears open and prepared to really get out there and talk.
Mhm.
And I think the other thing that goes along with what you said is, it is not automatic that if they were to cut the MEA,
Right,
that the state would have to follow suit.
right.
So I think we want to make sure that not only we know that, but our constituents know that, and our legislators know that just because the MEA gets cut, and we're not saying they will be, because that's the next part of this report, but if they were, that doesn't mean that it has to happen to us too. As it relates to the National Endowment for the Arts, you see all the stuff that's swirling out there right now. If you ask the current senior counselor to the president, who is the former chair of the NEA, she is a great advocate for the arts. She is somebody who's read all of the state arts agency grants that are up right now, that are technically supposed to go to the National Council by the end of March. What she said to her staff, and then by virtue of that to us, is that she's actually supportive of the money, that extra money that comes for arts and healthcare. So if the money is there, she will be supportive of that. Now, what makes it really interesting is a couple things. One is the council is supposed to meet end of March. The continuing resolution is to be voted on Friday-ish. So whatever happens, does the government shut down, or what happens in the continuing resolution? How does that affect what happens at the council? Still to be determined. So that's one piece. Another piece is that she's very clear that they are going to follow the executive orders. However, what they're saying is, we're gonna follow them, but we know that they're in the courts. So we're following it like you're following it. We're not making any decisions in that respect until such time as we know what's gonna happen. All of that to say, it's still an open question as to what's gonna happen with the endowment. But again, we'll keep you up to date as to what we know and what we hear. I have to say that NASA has been really good about keeping the state arts agency field calm. Because anytime you hear something about the NEA, it's almost a reflex to want to go to the barricades and fight, right? But what they say is, from their perspective, we're arguing for a couple things. Continued federal support of the arts through the National Endowment, and continuation of the partnership between the National Endowment and the state arts agencies. So that's where they're keeping their head focused. And if you really want to know, and Chella, as one of the NASA board members, can help you find it if you need it. If you really want to know how they would like us to be thinking and advocating, look for their document called Arts and Creativity Strengthen Our Nation. Because it not only tells you sort of the mindset we should be thinking in, but it also gives some really nice steps through as to how to do that. So take a look at that if you haven't, and I'll make a note and send it to you again, or send the link to you again, so you've got it. So lots to keep our eyes on in the coming year.
All right, any questions on budget committee updates? Hearing none, we are going to jump in. This is where we'll insert bills after we have Chella's. We'll have the accessibility in here. But Chella, do you want to give us an update on external relations?
Yes, so external relations has been doing a lot of work around the one pagers that if you all were able to be at the marketplace yesterday, there's printed copies, meaning that there is a final product that has been completed and shared electronically as well as in printed form. So, just kudos to the committee, specifically to Vivian, for a lot of the technical support in making this happen. One thing that I would really like to point out is that now that we have that under our belt, we have already been in contact with our friends in Indiana, inviting them to our next External Relations Committee meeting so that we can start looking at what data visualization is going to look like for the coming year, and reporting and just making data a little bit more friendly and accessible to folks. So that is the update. Thank you.
Ben?
I have one thing. Welcome Vivian to this conversation, because not only with the one pagers, but if you look at the website, you're seeing it evolve in front of your eyes because she's taking hard looks at that. And what you're also seeing, if you're on Instagram, which I know you all are, you're seeing connections on Instagram at a level that we haven't had before because we just haven't been there, and she's out there doing that. And the final thing I'll say is, it's Youth Art Month. And again, often we will say it's Youth Art Month, and we'll put something in the Arts News that say it's Youth Art Month. But Vivian's pursuing organizations and grantees and others who are doing work for youth and bringing it together. So if you look at the website again, you'll see the collection of stories about Youth Art Month in that first week of March. So all good.
All right. I'll be fine under executive.
Okay.
All right, Bill, want to give us?
Yeah, thank you for the time. The committee met a few weeks ago, and we made some recommendations. I want to go over those, and I'll be brief. We focused on defining our role, and we took examples from other states, and Karen Hadale had provided a bunch of different state art agencies accessibility sort of plans. So we had three different ones that sort of bridge the spectrum of how they were defined. First one is accessibility in the arts, and they define it as, quote, disability is defined as cultural, economic, and or social exclusion based on physical, psychological, sensory, or cognitive difference. NEA is, quote, to make the arts accessible for people with disabilities, older adults, veterans, and people living in institutions. And then more broadly was Kentucky Arts. These constituencies include, but are not restricted to, the following: persons of minority, ethnic, or racial groups, persons with disabilities, geographically or economically isolated communities, disadvantaged and at-risk persons, older Americans, persons in institutions, women, gay, lesbian, and transgender communities. So after much discussion, it was our opinion that we should stick with the NEA, given the current climate, just to, and stick with that constituency for what we're trying to do for our outreach and everything else we're trying to do. Mostly because it sort of fit with what the Arts Board does and stays in line with what the NEA is doing, rather than try to add words in that may not be acceptable. So we thought that was the most prudent way to go. And in the future, we could always update that and add something else, but that gives us a base to start working on some kind of programs to serve those particular groups. So I wanted to throw that out there. If anyone has any questions or comments on that, or if that's something we can move forward with as we start to plan. This is the first thing we need to do, is know who we're trying to help. So,
Could you reread that NEA for me?
sure, NEA was to make the art accessible for people with disabilities, older adults, veterans, and people living in institutions. So obviously, Kentucky had a much broader definition. And I think, obviously all those groups deserve consideration, but given the way things have been happening on the federal level, it might be prudent to stick in line with what the NEA is doing and kind of follow their path.
Which is, we're remembering that this is the term accessibility, and NEA is defining it in regards of traditional accessibility. So if you're.
Yeah, this comes from their accessibility.
That's what I just reminded folks. Because I know we had a few board in spring, a much bigger conversation about this and how this is being distilled back into this conversation.
Yeah, so from their whole accessibility outline.
I think it sounds great, especially because it gives you somewhere to focus.
Yep.
As opposed to if you have a whole litany of organizations or groups, you can't really make an impact, but if you could make an impact in these, smaller buckets, and then look to expand later on if we needed to or wanted, or were able to, really. It's about manpower,
Yeah, and that's part of the issue is, we have only a certain amount of capacity. The boards or the committee's fairly small. What if we know who these other people are we're trying to serve? Maybe we can start reaching out to those communities and maybe get some board members, committee members that would be from veterans or from whatever, and try and get more people involved in the committee so we can do more work. But this seems like a manageable amount of places to work on for the size of the committee at the moment. Again, we can always adjust it at a later date, but I think this is just a good place for us to start. So if everyone's okay with that, we kind of like to move forward that way.
Is everybody good with this? Great. Anybody not who wants to share thoughts? Knowing that is ever evolving. But we are talking about accessibility, I think, in the classical sense of accessibility, people with,
He said.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Disabilities, older adults, veterans, and people in
Yeah, I
institutions.
didn't want to say handicap, so I mean, it was like looking at different abilities, so,
Yeah.
all right.
And then the only other thing that I think was important too was, and we had talked about this at previous committee meetings was, maybe some of the grantees aren't, completing the accessibility part of the reporting. And that Dale had indicated that, should we get audited, that we'd be in real, trouble. And I'm just concerned that if we did get audited and they're starting to look at everything, with a fine tooth comb, and we're not in compliance with that, could there be some backlash to, hey, you guys aren't in compliance? XYZ is gonna happen. So I think, this is probably something to work on with the staff, how that the grantees, and they're supposed to be doing it anyways, I believe, as far as I understand.
Yeah,
So I just wanna make sure that that's sort of clean and working, just to cover ourselves and probably just, best practices going forward anyways. And not to put too much more onto the grantees to have to write more in the reporting or do that kind of thing, but, I think it'd be prudent to consider making that, something that is a priority for them to do.
so yeah, and I think part of it too in the field is the ongoing conversation of, is it good enough to check a box, right? So am I handicap accessible, meaning can I bring a wheelchair in? Yes, I can. Is for hearing impaired, yeah, and is checking a box good enough? Or is there something more that you need from your grantees to validate the fact that they truly are working towards this space? So I think this is a both and. I think we need to get them to do what we're asking them to do, and then the committee can help us figure out whether there's more that we can help them not only see this as compliance, right, but rather of value to their organization
Indeed.
by making it accessible to all, by making it accessible to the group.
And I know Dale had, we had talked about, the NEA has a form to do this, which is sort of broad and doesn't always fit a lot of organizations. It's sort of a broad net. But then Dale had found another platform or organization that did a similar thing that the NEA had said that was, approved by them. So, at our next committee meeting, we'll go delve more deeply into that and see if we can't figure out exactly what that is. And then from there, we can figure out how to get it into the grant process and all that stuff.
That's awesome. Wait, very quickly, I just want to relay a question from Denora. She says, what happens when compliance may result in major expenses for a small organization?
So the ADA talks about reasonable accommodation. So we're not looking at somebody and saying, well, you're gonna have to put in an elevator, or you're gonna have to blow out the doors so people can fit through. You might have to, as an organization, choose a different place to do the activity, to make it accessible. So it won't be a huge financial, it will be a change of venue possibly. But
It does talk about reasonable accommodation. And so, I will say, Denora, that, we have, the wonderful situation where our constituents are not shy about letting us know what they think about requirements. And so if there was an organization that would, really have to struggle with a hardship to make something accessible that isn't, we'd have that conversation with them.
gone are the days, I think, that reasonable accommodation would mean like one of our grantees who used to call the fire department when the person showed up with a wheelchair and to the basement of the organization. And that's all they could do. Now that the same organization has an elevator, so that's no longer an issue, but it was the way they were able to accommodate. But as I say, that would be a very hard thing to be talking about now.
And the fire department would say no at this point if they got that call.
I think that's right. So anyway.
Back in the day.
All right. So Bill, I think your committee is in a good position.
Yeah, I think we have what we need to start moving forward, and we'll have some more things to discuss next time.
Wonderful. All right, thank you very much. Moving on, we have the 50th anniversary awards, and I'll put that over to Karen and Caitlin.
We're starting with the 50th. Caitlin, yes, we are. So thank you all so much for being able to respond so quickly. there's a lot going on and so, when we were able to work with those applicants to get their applications to us by theoretically January 30th, it turned out to be more like sometime in February, which is why we didn't give you a lot of turnaround time. I know that's an understatement for your votes. And you all came through with your votes and we're really grateful that you prioritized that. So, right now, we have 19 of our 22 in and approved by you. There were a couple budget questions that we continue to work through. They won't receive their grant check until we're able to get on the same page related to that, but they're all excited, they're all eager, they're all grateful. We have a couple of new folks in the counties that we served before, and Caitlin, maybe you want to talk for a minute about those. But in addition to that, we have 3 more that are going to be coming in with solid budgets and a clear application before mid-April. Certainly.
Hopefully next week. I can
Before,
have some out.
yes, I would say,
Yeah.
yes, before the end of the month.
Yeah.
So who's coming in that's new from the different counties?
Well, those 3 that we're waiting on are all new organizations, which is great. That's been a lot more legwork, I would say, to get those last 3 in Pepin, Jackson, and Trempealeau counties.
Oh my goodness.
But they're in and they're almost good to go. New, I think Oconto Falls, this was the first time that they were able to, they weren't quite ready last year. Adobe Library,
Mondovi Library, yep.
High Ground Veterans Memorial, which is exciting.
Wabino.
Friends of the Arts,
Oh,
which is the
they're
new
applying for a different
organization,
project.
different
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah.
Hurley Public Library, it's first time. And I'm scanning here. I think that those, was Medford in last time?
It
Medford?
was.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I think it's those.
What's been fun is watching the second time, when we come back to them with the second conversation, to have them start at a different point. So they're already feeling confident and knowledgeable about what we're doing. And so the questions that they're asking are, they run a little bit deeper. They're more thoughtful. They're not just skating on the surface, which is really delightful to see. And we learn as we go as well. And so part of the application process this year was having them submit the list of people that they'll be inviting to the Zoom call so that we don't have a situation that we had, I would say at least a couple times last time,
Yeah.
where the applicant was there and that was the person that was there on the call. And so we're all talking at this one person who's thinking, oh, that's right. I was supposed to invite other people from the county to gather this information. So we're getting that information ahead of time. They're inviting people. And I think they're feeling even more like the resources that we see them as for their county. So they're beginning to go, yeah, I'm actually somebody that you in the county should listen to because we have some really neat things happening. So it's in a way shifting a little bit their position within their county and the way their community is seeing them. So
In addition to our great team who speaks with them, who else do you have on those calls, just as a reminder?
so last year it was the Wisconsin Humanities and the Office of Rural Prosperity staff. And this year we are going to be connecting with the RTSs, so tourism's regional tourism specialists. So depending on where the call is happening, the specialist from that region will be on there. We are connecting with someone from the DNR, Parks Division Department, the D, and and so that's gonna be cool because we actually heard that from the constituents last year. There's a lot of stuff happening in these counties that involves the DNR, so let's hear from them about what resources we might not know about, that we can access. Yeah,
And then
and the
we
Office of
talked
Rural
about
Prosperity is coming.
the regional economic folks.
Yeah.
Office of Rural Prosperity.
Yeah, so one of the things that I learned at this point in this process is that the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, Office of Rural Prosperity, has, much like the tourism department with their regional tourism specialists, they have their own regional economic development directors. And so they have a number of people who are incredibly knowledgeable about their parts of the state. So we're going to be pulling them onto that. Again, just to give them a sense of what the state government is offering in terms of resources that we would all really love to invest more into their counties, if possible. So that's the purpose for that. All right. So again, thank you so much for your votes. And look for 3 more that you'll be seeing from us by early April, if
Yeah.
not the end of March.
Soon.
Yeah.
All right, any questions? We'll jump down to approving Wisconsin regranting program recommendations.
Yes, so thank you for, let me see if I can find that in here. It's a nice big list of folks. This is, yes. And so the context for this is so.
He doesn't know either. 16, I think.
Yes, exactly. So the. All right.
And we small, yeah, a lot of.
Yeah, we have so much.
Yeah, it's just.
We have so much good stuff. Look at this. Thank you. Got it. And these are the synopses of the project from the 50th out there, if you want to read those. All right. So the thing to know about
Let me look
the
at that again.
regranting groups is that
Okay.
we have 2 groups that have been working with us for a very long time. And one of them, the Northern Lake Center for the Arts in Amory, Wisconsin, has finally decided that it is not in a place to continue processing and participating in this
Computer. Thank you.
For analog folks, next time, is it possible when the PDF is generated, please have it auto-generate page numbers on the print version?
That would be
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
Having no page
It's
numbers
something you
makes
can
it crazy.
Tell the PDF to do.
Herman?
Thank you.
You
Okay, board books, page numbers. So the Northern Lake Center for the Arts has formally and officially left the regranting program, which formally and officially allows those dollars to be permanently distributed among the other organizations. Adding on to that, this year, the Community Foundation of North Central Wisconsin has decided to sit out for a year and assess how participating in this program, pros and cons, as it looks at the way it serves its region and how it defines that, whether that continues to make sense for them or not. Those dollars have become available. And so what you'll see in these columns is that normally they would be getting, so let's just walk you through the columns. The pre-2011 base, before we took the 70% hit and everybody went down significantly, you'll see those numbers in that pre-2011 base column. And then, since then, you will see the award that we were able to give them, post-2011. And then you'll see the award they received last year, FY '24. And then you'll see the request that they made for this year. And then you'll see the recommendation that we're making in that final column. And in some cases, the recommendation is higher than their initial request. There's a little asterisk there, because that's me calling and saying, hey, one of your regranting organization sisters has stepped away. There's more funding. Would you be able to take and match and grant out additional dollars? To which those with asterisks said yes.
I can't.
Those who didn't have an asterisk.
No.
Well, a couple didn't, for a few reasons, but, one of which is going through the county process of getting greater approval or whatever might be more time intensive and burdensome than the benefit would be. So they just turned it down. But generally speaking, that's what those columns mean. That's what we're recommending, for funding levels. And so.
I'll just note if there's anyone listening at home that since 2011, there has been inflation, which makes, even if a number in one column looks the same as the 2011 number, it's not. The buying power is not there. For those listening at home.
Well, and as Karen has said many times, the hope here is that we get people back at least to the level of that pre-2011 base before we start getting other communities involved in this program. Right, because one of the things somebody might say is, well, if you're not gonna be here, let's bring somebody else in. Well, in the case of Northern Lakes, they're out permanently, that's one thing, but when you're talking about it sitting out a year, you can invite a community in and then say, oh, sorry, and then coming back, so you gotta go. Because the whole purpose in this program is to allow the regranter to know the amount they're gonna have, so they can match it and distribute it in the community. And if it's a roller coaster, then that makes it very destabilizing.
Okay. We have to go into conflicts, so, all right, we're gonna go around the table and, please take a look at this. And if you have any conflicts, please state them out loud. Jane, we're starting with you.
conflicts.
Thank
no conflicts. Hoffman, no conflicts.
Schwarzkopf, no conflicts. Garcia, no conflicts.
Wallet, no conflicts. Johnson, no conflicts.
Chandra, no conflicts.
Martin, no conflicts.
Mitchell, no conflicts.
Libby, no conflicts.
Teresa.
All right,
I'm calling Denora and.
Dinora?
Marquez, no conflicts.
Potter, St. Croix Valley Foundation.
thank you.
What did you say, Tel?
I do have a conflict, sorry.
Ella says.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay, Anderson.
St. Croix Valley. Kella, who's your conflict?
Milwaukee Arts Board.
Chandra, do you have the same?
I had it.
All right, fair enough.
Sorry about that.
All right, would someone make a motion to approve all the grants except for the St. Croix Valley Community Foundation and the Milwaukee Arts?
Hoffman, so moved.
Thank you.
Johnson, second.
Thank you very much, John. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. John, if you want to turn your camera off for a hot second. All right. Is someone willing to make a motion to approve the funding for the St. Croix Valley Community Foundation?
Schwarzkopf, so moved.
Thanks, Jen. Second?
Richie?
All right, second by Richie. Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. John, welcome back. And then Chella and LaShondra, if you want to step up.
I'm gonna add Milwaukee Arts Board as well. This is Marquez.
You want to turn your camera off or?
Plug your ear.
So Denora,
Well, she had no conflicts until this one. Got it, okay. Okay. All right. Someone make a motion to approve funding for the Milwaukee Arts Board?
Hoffman.
Martin,
Thank you. Seconded by Marchant. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, welcome back to Nora, Chella, and LaShondra. Thank you very much for that.
this year is the 30th anniversary of the re-granting program.
Any idea how much money has gone out through it over the 30 years?
That's a great question.
Program.
Just curious, any idea what the kind of money that's gone out over the last 30 years?
Exact idea, just not.
Yes, okay, fair enough, fair enough, fair enough.
In the S drive,
Yeah.
so I can get that to you.
So.
Wow.
I'm just curious.
This is a quick history. It started with 150,000 from the NEA with a match from the state of 150. And then when the NEA did its 3 years in a row, then the state maintained the 150. And then when we got cut, it went back to this 167 number.
Do you remember who the governor was then?
That proposed the program.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, we didn't say this before. When we got increases to the Arts Board's budget, there were programmatic increases. The first was the Arts Challenge Initiative. The second was the Wisconsin Regranting Program. And I've never, and that's why this is an historic moment, we have never seen an increase simply to increase the Arts Board's budget to serve the state
Until
until
this year,
So,
Governor.
but yeah, so Tommy Thompson, 2 programs, and then time goes on until we got to this moment.
Okay, moving on in our agenda, we are now at the Arts Challenge Initiative, and Karen, I'll pass this over to you.
Yes, flip forward. Nope. not that.
Page
Yeah, yeah,
18.
Let's give it a bit. Little tiny bit.
Okay.
Is that it? Yeah, no, that's
got it.
I don't, you can do that. So Arts Challenge Initiative, it is our pleasure
It's okay.
every year to be able to connect with the folks either virtually or in person. And this year we were able to connect in person last month with these 8 organizations, or actually last year's grant recipients, to get a sense of what they're up to and how things are going and how we might support. And what I can tell you, if I can pull it up really quickly, because I was doing something else on another program here, is that most of these applicants this year have decided that they will be putting these grant dollars toward artist fees or towards the arts administration piece of the work that they're doing. There are several that are putting it toward marketing. There are several that are putting the dollars toward a couple that are putting them toward conferences. But generally speaking, it is focused on that artist fee piece and the basic administrative costs of running an arts organization. So that is where they plan to put their dollars this year: human resources, staff salaries, artist fees. I would also say that a bunch of them were also going to be putting it toward only one toward evaluation and assessment costs, but a bunch also, again, toward that marketing piece and a program design and implementation for one of them. So that kind of infrastructure support, that it's hard to find funds for those things. And so that makes these dollars even more valuable to the groups. So that's what we have in front of us.
All right, that's page 18 in your board book, so you can see who are being recommended. If you'd like to take a hot second, and then we will go through and record conflicts.
This is right here.
Go first.
Start down here, so it's easy, because you're gonna be challenging.
I can leave.
You're gonna be arts challenge. You'll be my personal arts challenge initiative.
You don't have a conflict with, and we'll be good.
All right,
No conflicts.
Richie, no conflicts.
Hoffman, Little Eagle Arts Foundation.
okay,
Schwarzkopf, no conflicts.
thank you.
Garcia, Walker's Point Center for the Arts.
Okay.
Wallet, no conflicts. Johnson, no conflicts.
All right, one moment. I've got to get prepared. I do, I have to write here.
So I need to say them all of them except for the.
I just want to know who, do you have fewer that you have? Give me the shorter of the lists.
She did,
I
she
have-
said only Little Eagle is like.
Little Eagle that I do.
Okay, thank you.
It works for the foundation.
Yeah.
Yep. I didn't hear.
Margin, no conflicts.
Thank you.
Mitchell, no conflicts.
With no conflicts.
Thank you.
Hang on.
Yep.
Denora,
John?
Potter, no conflicts.
Marquez Latino Arts.
Thank you. Geez, Louise and Betsy Sue along with her, and there is no straight way through with this one, so just give Jane and me a second, okay?
Mhm. Take your time.
All right. Chella.
Yeah.
Will you step out of the room, please?
With pleasure. Ciao.
He's jealous.
God, that didn't even work. but
Yeah, that's
just,
fine.
you know, we're just doing it this way. There's so few, just accept how I'm doing this, okay?
That's right, it's fine.
Will someone make a motion to approve it? Walker?
wait a minute.
No, could,
Oh, Cassandra, can you step up? Too sorry.
I'm
because
just
you're all
following
up with me.
instructions, but
And
I'll
then
stay in the
if-
hallway.
You're gonna be,
You're gonna need your water.
Eagle be the last thing we do, so you just stay out there for a little while.
Stay. See you guys later. All right,
All right.
goodbye.
Someone please make a motion for Walker.
Schwarzkopf, so
Thank you.
moved.
Second, Johnson.
Thank you, John. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay. So,
Chella can come back.
Jella,
Chella. Ella.
Denora, can you disappear for a moment?
Okay,
Thank you. Someone make a motion to approve the funding for Latino Arts.
Richie.
Thank you.
Second Garcia.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right. Is there a motion to approve the grant recommendations for Black Arts Milwaukee, Coty Dance Company, Signature Dance, the is it today? T-Bay Arts Center, and the Zawa African Drum Dance for Life.
Marcus.
Oh.
Oh, thank you, Nora. Second, Hoffman.
Sure.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Karen Ann, can you please lead?
Yes,
the
I
roll
can.
and
How
second
do you say
Dr.
that with pleasure?
LaShondra, you can come in.
No, oh yeah.
Oh, Shonda's around the corner.
She's on.
I just died,
Oh,
so she's coming around.
I'm out here.
Thank you. Okay. Will someone make a motion to approve the funding for Little Eagle Arts Foundation? All right, Jane? Aaron?
Second.
Susan, second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
None. Motion carries. All right. Thank you all very much. You can come back in now, Karen Ann.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, never a dull moment.
The next one, Brian, in your
Yep, you
inbox.
emailed it.
Yeah, so, and I can also just announce the app.
All right, so the next one we're going on to is to approve the Woodland Indian Arts Program.
That's right.
Did we all get that in our boxes or just? Yeah.
Everyone, who has access to their email.
Well, every year we have the opportunity to offer up $24,900 in Indian money to get it back to Indian artists in our communities, whether those communities are reserve, rural, urban, or suburban. We had half a dozen applicants this year, I think it was. So 5, and it was down 1 or 2.
Down one.
So, yeah, so, we're in the ballpark, but I think one of the big takeaways was encouragement from our really terrific panel that we, find new ways to reach more people, and that's always been our goal. One of the barriers that was discussed was potentially figuring out how we can offer more examples for organizations who might not have the vision to see how they fit into this organization. And so that I think maybe is something we can work on, to highlight work samples or videos or something so people can click on it and be like, oh, that is like me. Maybe I should apply. So I thought that was really perceptive from our panelists. But with 5 applications, 4 of whom were rock solid, really amazing, 1 of whom can use the benefit of a little coaching. And so the recommendation is for 4 out of the 5. And Caitlin can give us more pertinent information, but it's really important for me to say how much I, as a human being, the other panelists, and all of the people impacted by this money appreciate the work that Caitlin does, because you really do a great job for us, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, they made my job really easy.
Well,
So,
but thank you.
really fantastic panelists. We lost one, in person on Zoom ahead of time, but he had already reviewed all of them and scored all of them, which was amazing. That never happens. So it was easy to just incorporate his feedback into the process. Like Karen Ann said, I think that we shifted the program this year based on feedback from panelists and applicants to the winter from the fall. I think it works. I think we'll just keep experimenting with that. And I think, like they suggested, it's probably time to do later this year, another kind of listening session, discussion about the program, and then couple that with some kind of technical assistance or walkthrough of the application, process. So other than that, I think, and I'll work with Les Wagening, the one that they did not recommend, was not quite ready for funding. I'll work with them on, technical assistance there, but I think that's.
All right, I know not everyone has a computer in front of them. The organizations that were recommended were the Woodland Indian Art, the College of the Menominee Nation, St. Croix Chippewa Indians of Wisconsin, and is it Uwakwa?
Uwagwa. But yes, so you're being asked to fund everything from indigenous fashion shows to foodways and planting and
Drumming and.
performance, drumming, theater. Yeah, really important work on all
All
of
right,
these
let's go
spaces.
around the room. See if we have any conflicts.
No conflicts. Richie, no conflicts.
I must say, I don't have any conflicts.
Schwarzkopf, no conflicts. Percent, no conflicts.
Johnson, no conflicts.
Lashudra, no conflicts.
Hardship, no conflicts.
Mitchell, no conflicts.
Flip, no conflicts.
Online.
And then, Potter, John Potter,
Potter, no conflicts.
Dinora,
Marcus, no conflicts.
Wonderful. Would someone please make a motion to approve this grant?
Justin, so moved.
Thank you very much. Jen.
Schwarzkopf, seconds.
Thank you very much, Jen. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries.
Huzzah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Huzzah.
That worked.
Mm.
thanks Karen.
All right, we've gone through the brunt of our agenda for what we're discussing here today. We have a few more items of business. For the chairman's report, I just want to let you know how appreciative I am. It's, when I first started coming to Wigcott, I felt like one of the only arts people here. APT Sarah Young would come, and sporadically you get other people. So I'm really thankful that we're hosting the Wisconsin Arts Board meetings at Wigcott, and you guys are getting to start to see the other individuals in our communities, and you're starting to see the arts actually being discussed more and being discussed in front of the general group as well. So I mean, it's really important that the work that's going on here so that they understand the entire tourism product and not just thinking about this as DMOs, et cetera, the Destination Management Organization. So thank you guys very much for taking the time to come here, whether you were here the whole time or here and just able to join us for a bit of it. Thank you for doing that. Last night, a group of us had a meeting first with Create Wisconsin's executive committee, and it was our executive committee and members of their executive committee. We had done this once before years ago, and I just felt it was time again, and Carolyn and I, who is their board chair, saw each other in San Juan in Puerto Rico, and I had asked her, can we do this? And she said, yes. Originally, we talked about doing this in Milwaukee in December, but this is where our two circles overlapped and provided us an opportunity to meet. To me, it was just important that oftentimes our stakeholders are many times they're the exact same stakeholders, and at times they're not the exact same stakeholders. But I think it's important that we as an organization understand them as an organization, and they in turn understand us as an organization and what might be motivating us. And so yesterday for about 45, 50 minutes, we went around, introduced ourselves, who we are. I did present some of the things that, are important to us right now, some of the existential concerns that we're facing or potentially could face, and how it's going to be critical that our two organizations are teed up and facing in the same direction when it comes to this, knowing that there's times where Create Wisconsin needs to head down a different path because that's what their mission is. And we know what our mission is and what we are, in a sense, restricted to being able to discuss, not to discuss, and our role as appointed positions by the governor. I thought it was a very good meeting. I think it was the first. We've talked about meeting quarterly, these two groups. And this is without George or Ann, and it's not to talk about George or Ann. It is just really gives the leaders of these two groups an opportunity to talk and figure out what's going on in your world. What do you see up and coming? What are you hearing? And the same from our side, so that we can develop this relationship, because there are, what we learned with NASA, the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies, that there are several states where these two groups do not get along. And we want to make sure that our state does not go down that path and that we remain communicative. We don't always have to see eye to eye, but we have to stand shoulder to shoulder when it comes to looking at our legislators. So I just wanted to report back on that we had that meeting prior to coming over and the rest of the group meeting at the lacrosse distillery yesterday. So thank you to the members of the executive committee who took the time to do that. Vivian, thank you so much for taking the time to set all that up, both the dinner and the drinks beforehand. So just wanted to give you guys the update on that, and we will continue to report on what comes out of that. And these are not meant to be secretive meetings. They're just meant to be sharing and better understanding of what's going on. All right, that's all I have for my chairman's report. Oh, I'm sorry, I did, I walked over to the table and I said, are we gonna get a picture with the governor? And then I just finally walked up and I said, well, I'm going to get my picture with the governor so I can say thank you. I did go up and get my picture with the governor just to look him in the face and say, thank you so much. I'm the chair of the Wisconsin Arts Board. We've met before, and I just want to say thank you so much for what you've put in the budget. And he said, there's a long ways to go.
Mhm.
So, but it was nice. I just wanted to make sure that there was a face with that as well. George and I had sent communicate to his offices that you all have seen. So it's just following kind of up so that there is a face to that besides George's, who he certainly knows.
So before we leave Brian's report and come to me, I think it'd be great if you invite your fellow board members to talk about WCOT, what they've heard,
Yeah.
what's really interesting, what we should be thinking about based on what your interactions have been with the people here.
I want to say that I had told both Karen and George, I was amazed because I love to go around and sit and talk to people. I'd rather not sit with you guys. I love all you, but we meet. But I'd rather sit with those people so that they see a face to the arts board and I can point them to Karen. I was amazed each time I went up and, you know, sitting at a table and they'd say who they were and I'd say, I'm Lynn Ritchie, I'm with the arts board. Oh, we're really trying to get arts more into our community. Is there any help? You know, yes. We have a wonderful staff that can help. I was amazed at how many people. And then today, after we had the breakout session, we were sitting at the table. You had gone for ice cream. You missed all the fun. And
That's big worth it.
the woman, yeah, the woman from, okay, one of the people that was in the meeting, that their community is really working on bringing art. And I know the place, I could drive there. Sun Prairie, yes, exactly. She came over and she said, please tell everybody on your board, thank you. That was so good. So thank you for setting that up in there. He was so happy with that and so excited about having that here and learning.
One of the things that you said, and then we'll keep going for sure, but you said that the conversations, this big cod
Right.
compared to past big cod.
oh, yeah.
So it's like it's really
Oh,
built
yes.
over time
Yeah.
because of that presence that you mentioned.
Right.
People are getting used to seeing you all and they're getting more comfortable. Going, oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I ever heard anybody before when we talked back and forth and I said arts board, that they said, oh, we're trying to put more art in the community. You would have to say, you know, as you're chatting, what kind of art do you have in your community? You would have to bring that up. So, yeah, totally different this time.
I would say the number of people in the room as well at the session, because I walked in, like, okay, do I need to fill this space with my presence? And was like, nope, I don't need to be here. I can go down to a different one. So that has grown over time as well.
So I was in that same breakout room and I had two things that I thought about from that. One of them was later in the hallway, somebody connected with me and they really want to know how to borrow art from that Eau Claire lady. But this really amazing kind of a system where this community, 501c3, buys more art than they need, buys more art than they have places to show it, and then they lend it out to neighboring communities. And I don't know the logistics of that, but that is magic. So that was cool. And the other thing I heard was a really good complaint. How come there's only one arts related breakout? So
I think some of that is they, last
Now
year,
they
there were a lot
realize.
more, so it's nice seeing that, so that is great feedback.
Mhm.
And hopefully they will reiterate that when the survey goes out.
I hope so too. I encourage them
I just
to
want
do
to
that.
underscore the fact, and thank you for that, because that is just staff capacity this year.
Oh.
Because we certainly would have loved to do more, but what I want to make sure is that we're not putting it on Twitter and that they didn't invite that.
No.
This time around, we did what we could do, and so I love.
Yeah, me too. The takeaway from that is that the breadcrumbs in the appetizer last year are leaving a hunger. And so I think that's cool.
Yeah, last year, the secretary came up to me right after that and said, we should do this again.
Yeah.
As you saw the color drain from my face.
Right. I'm not asking for that level of, yeah.
She said
yeah.
that to me on the way to breakfast this morning. She was like, I just wish there were more artists involved, here today.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she's enthusiastic.
For me, I think it's interesting now because I'm seeing faces that are familiar from other organizations and the CBBs and things like that. So I feel like it's more, I'm more integrated into the community, and a lot of people you sit down and you're like, oh my gosh, hi, how are you? I haven't seen you. So that's what I really noticed this year. And the setup was kind of contained so you could see people like over and over again. But no, it's been interesting. I went to a different breakout and found it really interesting, the pitch, and that was really neat because you could see that people were really passionate about their areas and what they offer, and just maybe don't know how to pitch it for a national publication. So the freelancers really could guide them. But one of the freelancers, she's from Minnesota, but she said, Wisconsin is so weird. She's like, it's like the weirdest place you don't know about. And she's like, there's so many interesting things, like the taxidermy bar I went to in Hayward, and like all these other things. And Kinstone, someone was talking about
Kinstone?
that. Yeah, it's like
Stonehenge.
it's like Stonehenge, but it was built in 2011, and it has like a spa atmosphere. And then it also has like, labyrinths you can walk through, and it's like beautiful. And, it was just really interesting to learn about places I didn't know about, and that, they are really unique and already have some national exposure. And, but the woman who said Wisconsin's so weird, she's like, you should put all these weird things together and promote the state. And I was like, that's really interesting, so. Yeah.
I echo what, my colleagues have already reiterated. I think for me, the connecting with us is something that's really important, and I really look forward to doing. Obviously connecting also with the leadership at Create Wisconsin, I think is an important arm of just the story and the power of the arts and how we best communicate that. I know there's a lot of work to do, in terms of, how do we continue to better embed what we do? But I think there's significant improvement, as everyone's already pointed out. Conversations that I've had with folks that I'm meeting for the first time, like it's not a blank stare anymore, which is different. And that's, I think, promising and exciting. So kind of my observation.
Thanks. I'll go quickly echoing what others said. I think it's certainly changed. I've been to 12 of these now, and they all feel a little bit different. And Brian says I always complain about things, so I'm not gonna mention breakfast. It's interesting, somebody, I was talking to somebody in the hall, whose name escapes me, but they were talking about the percent for our program, which, how long has that been? We got to almost 15 years now, and people are still talking about it, and they thought it was in the last budget, and then I thought back, like, it was, right? It was 2 years ago.
It was in
2 budgets ago, that's
first budget, yeah.
That's right. But it just tells you how much the work we do sticks with people. And they remember things from 15 years ago. It's amazing. So, yeah, and I enjoy all of it. Getting to see all that as well.
What I can share with you about the F&B here is that the caterer for breakfast is the convention center. And for the lunches, it's been the Radisson. That's why you're seeing a shift in them, because I talked to AJ and I said, how's it going? He said, great, except for, and so AJ just shared that thing.
Interesting.
That's, there you go.
I'll speak to what others have spoken to a little bit, but it's that walking around the synergy of people like, oh, you're with the arts board, and then the conversation goes really well. I think people kind of like us, and it's nice to be in a place like that. I had a great conversation with a couple folks, staff members at the Neville Museum.
Oh,
in Green Bay. And they were appreciative of all we do, and I, of course, always ask, so how are you engaging youth in Green Bay, et cetera? And they talk about partnerships they would have with Green Bay Public Schools, that the public schools will eat the cost of the busing to bring kids there, and then they started a virtual programs for kids who live far away, like a classroom that might be in Antigo or something, so they have to take a whole day and a lot of money to get there. We talk about other things too, but it's that kind of, what people, everybody comes to us in a different way, they come their own path. But that's the happiness that's nice,
Hmm.
especially given my day job.
Hmm.
Sandra?
Similar observations. Looking forward to it being in Milwaukee next. I think that's a great opportunity to see if we can get involved with planning as a host strategy to infuse more art.
I thought it was cool to couple outdoor rec with the arts in a way that, in the breakout session, just talking about a bike trail with sculpture along the whole way. And I guess I've thought about those things in very different piles, thinking I'm going on an art walk, or I'm riding my bike, or, engaging in nature. And it was just cool to put that together in my head a little bit more and feel like, that they're just such partners, and like, why wasn't I going there before?
Thank you.
A lot of great conversations again this year. I had a really awesome conversation with John I can't remember his last name, from Sculpture Milwaukee at the breakout session. Something that we're gonna follow up on, 'cause there's some grant money he's working on. And also, I thought he had a really interesting comment regarding, what's the bigger sort of like picture of our artistic culture in Wisconsin, and not always like, oh, it's a town that wants to put some murals up because downtown's, seen better days or whatever, which is perfectly great, but just that kind of bigger picture thing. So it was interesting to, I think every year I, talk to a ton of people, but then there's always like one person that I sort of follow up with a little bit, and it's an opportunity to build something from that. So I really appreciated that. I love the video from Milwaukee. I felt like I saw, there was like a star in there. I can't remember her name. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Susan?
I just thought about a lot of things that I could do, because I kind of know the world, and I think I can probably get really close to the governor and actually talk to him on a personal level and see what I can do for not only the arts board, but for everybody. Because, it's kind of good to be old. When you get to know people in a whole different way. I've run into people today that I haven't seen in years that remembered me from all the stuff I used to do in Bear.
Yeah.
And so it was very interesting for me. And it gave me a kind of an once again to start really pushing, which I'm pretty good at.
Hey, John Potter, your wife was the one that led the chant for the arts board. When they mentioned the arts board from the stage, she made the applause happen. So want to make you know that that's true.
Pleased to hear that.
I want to meet his wife.
Well, we'll introduce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
What,
Oh, I'm sorry, Jane.
it's okay. What I thought was great though, and I really think the message is getting across of the 18 cents to 68 cents.
Right.
And how
Yes.
underfunded, because it was mentioned by the secretary and it came up a few more times. And then when I would be walking around, people would I just didn't know that arts was that underfunded in Wisconsin. So
Everything's
hopefully
underfunded.
it is, but hopefully that will kind of help us in the next couple of months.
I would like to make my yearly pitch again that for our booth, we offer to refund people their 16 cents. 18 cents. You have a little baggie of 18 cents in it and we give it to them.
So we're gonna have a problem is that if we get rid of pennies, like.
They're gonna go up to 20 cents. by the way.
Two dimes.
Exactly. All right, Ann, I want to give you the opportunity if there's any updates you want from Create Wisconsin to share with us, or?
Oh, sure. Glad to be sitting in here. I heard from my board members that it was a very good meeting last night, and they were very happy that you all had the chance to talk together, having dinner. As you know, we have been advocating for more funding for the arts and creative opportunities through the Arts Board for a long time, and I think that this is the best opportunity we've had in a long time. So we have been pushing that at the top of our legislative agenda for a number of months with the governor and with the legislators. Thinking that when the legislators, so we've asked people to thank the governor for his support, and we've asked people to get in touch with legislators to say, please make the arts and culture a priority in your budget. So now that we're going to be entering that phase, we are going to be assisting as needed to see who might offer a budget motion and be supportive of that. And keep working the process through the Joint Finance Committee hearings and whatever other hearings and meetings that there are out there to make sure that that stays in the budget until the end. Create Wisconsin Day is March 25th. And so we will be having lots of people from around the state. Hope some of you can make it. And making appointments for them to talk to their legislators about this issue. So optimistic.
Don't forget to include in the agenda Chela Garcia, speaker from the Arts Board.
Yes, yes. I had that on there, but thank you.
George and I are both gone, so Jello's the perfect person and would have been my first choice. So,
Yeah, so, thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
You're done. I believe so. One last thing. I'm gonna say the 68 cents, just know that Door County has Door Kiwanis Legislative Day, it's a week from tomorrow. And I was put on the steering committee because I was so angry last time they wouldn't put the arts on their agenda. They put me on their steering committee and they almost tried to not put it on the agenda again, but it's on the agenda. So we will be talking, I picked the 68 cents topic. So we will be hitting every legislator's office a week from tomorrow to talk about, as one of the things affecting Door County, is that 68 cents. So.
Thank you, Brian.
Yes, yeah.
So we're setting it up for you, Ann, for Create Wisconsin, because I
Yeah,
will
that's
be
great.
out of town, so they
The more that
have
you
already
heard,
heard
better.
and they will heard that. All right, George.
You've got the list of activities, so I'm gonna leave the written word for that. I will tell you that as we are meeting today, our friends at Arts Midwest, whose current board chair is an attorney, has finally put out the fact that on March 19th, at 10 a.m. Central Time, they're gonna do a webinar entitled Unpacking the Trump Administration's Executive Orders on DEI. So, we've heard this, we, the state executive directors, have heard this, but I'm sure this will be up to the minute information, information that the field is really desperate to know. So you will get this as soon as they put it out officially tomorrow, but this is the heads up email that we got today, that they'll be doing this again, March 19th at 10 o'clock. And so the discussion topics will include tracking the latest developments in the National Association of Diversity Officers in Higher Ed versus the Trump administration and the federal court injunction, the rescission of Executive Order 11246 and what it means for federal employees, and the future of DEI initiatives in the workplace. So I think it's going to be very interesting, and if you have that time available, jump on. And again, I'll send you the information tomorrow when they.
Can we share that?
Yeah, tomorrow when they put it out
We'd
officially.
be able to share it with a lot of people.
I believe that that's something that will be spread around soon.
Okay.
So,
All right. Anybody have anything else they want to bring forward for our meeting today? Thank you all again. Our next meeting will be taking place. I closed my
Oh, it's
agenda.
gonna be March 9th, and I mean, May 9th. And actually, I'm glad you said that, because this is one thing I did want to raise. We started talking about it up here. Because Milwaukee is gonna be the site of the March 26th meeting, it seems to me, at least, we need to be thinking about that December 25 in Milwaukee is a feeder to the March 26th meeting. And then we need to think about whether we return to Milwaukee in December of 26 or we go somewhere else. So that, you know, we spread the wealth a bit. So begin thinking about it, talk to Brian, talk to me, any one of the staff, and start thinking about that. And to your point, we will go to the secretary and say, from this department point of view, how can we help you infuse the arts locally for March of next year? And then you can, from the local committee stuff for you in Milwaukee, you can sort of work that angle and we'll see what we can make.
And just keep in mind, I mean, the reason for that is in 6 months, we will be in Kenosha, Milwaukee. And so that's a lot of southeast Wisconsin for the arts board. Chella, not to drive a bus, but it might be good for external relations to add to some of our talking points,
Sure.
ways in sessions that we might think could be helpful so that it doesn't fall on staff. And LaShondra, I'm gonna say, when it comes to Milwaukee, of making sure the appeal is to rural Wisconsin, rural and urban, because a lot of the people you notice who are coming here, they're coming in from rural areas and they're trying to find a way to make this work in their communities so that it doesn't feel very disconnected as we look at the art side of what we want to bring into potentially WCOT 2026, just FYI.
I like that.
Awesome,
And it's
So we-
3 of us from Milwaukee, so you know what, myself and.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Sure,
Did
Scott.
you have something else you can do?
Nope, for when we're adjourned.
All right, so we have a motion to adjourn by Schwarzkopf. A second?
So moved.
Thank you. We have a motion, a second. All in
Yeah.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, John. Bye.
I'll what direction is for supper.
Bye, Denora. Bye.